Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to look at kind of spring runoff, temporary streams and such, temporary ponds and kind of wet areas in the forest, and how that can help the forest through the entire year, not just while the snow melts. And so here we have a temporary stream. This particular stream flows during spring runoff when the snow's melting, and possibly on some heavy rain events in the summer, and that's about it. And one of the things that I want to show here is these areas, these little streams. There's a lot of coarse woody debris, as they say. This one here has some sawn logs that are in and over the stream, and I just want to show how that can really help with pushing water into the water table underground. And this spring runoff here, as you can see in these kind of pools, this will sit, and even as we speak, water soaking into the ground, and this water is going to be available for trees down slope here, and it may be available for several months, right through the dry period of the summer. So the importance of having areas like this with pools and having this woody debris kind of damming up and slowing the water down, essentially allowing it to soak in, can be really an important factor in the amount of water that the trees downslope receive through the year. And it can actually be a fairly striking difference. One example is the inland rainforest area. This is not that. This is in Alberta, where we are right now, where we're filming. However, in BC, the British Columbia, Canada, the inland rainforest areas often are in valleys surrounded by very high mountains. They get an enormous amount of snow in the fall, winter, and early spring. And throughout the season, that snow, right into summer, is melting and going underground. And at the toe slopes of those mountains, that water kind of reemerges and is available for the trees. And you really do notice it in the size of the trees and the kind of the biodiversity in those areas. It's quite amazing. So again, like I say, this is not that area. However, it still is acting the same way. This area gets a lot less snow, so every bit of water that soaks into the ground here is important. And it's what I want to kind of emphasize is having these areas that are naturalized with all sorts of kind of contours to trap water, forcing it into the ground. That's going to help the forest throughout the whole year. So let's take it a few more areas and just kind of look at how those are important, and areas where maybe have been logged, they have been contoured by, to remove that meltwater as fast as possible. They're not allowing that water to soak into the ground, and less is going to be available downslope. All right, here's another area where we've had a tree toppled over by the wind and pulling the entire root ball out, and we have an area underneath that's gathering water and allowing it to soak into the ground. So all these areas along these little temporary streams are kind of features that are directing water underground. So kind of these things, if this area was completely logged, you wouldn't have that, obviously. Having all this water come under the roots of trees that have been toppled over by wind and everything else, that's actually really helping slow the water down and pushing it underground. Here we have another example of a feature in a forest that would help direct water into the groundwater system. So this is a relatively open area, kind of a depression, where as we looked at in the snow video that we did a few weeks ago, it's one of those areas that would gather a high amount of snow because it would be somewhat shaded. This is late April, so we have a little bit of snow still, but you can see this area gathers water. There's not a lot of tree growth because of the wetness here, but this area would dry out through the summer. However, it would still have a fair amount of soil moisture throughout the entire year. So kind of a feature like this is directing water right into the ground, and these are the types of things we want to keep. A lot of property owners might want to fill in areas like this, but you know, there are some benefits, as we can see. Okay, here we have another area similar to the last one we filmed, but however, this area has the same kind of stream, that Snowmelt stream, come into a larger kind of area where the water gathers and then comes into a larger pond. And this area stays wet all summer and really does kind of supply the trees surrounding it with quite a bit of water. This area in the middle has a lot of kind of ferns and mosses and things like that. It's hard to see right now, seeing as there's a lot of dry grass. But just wanted to say that yeah, it's definitely a wetter kind of system that we're seeing in there, which is definitely due to this kind of water that's being kept in the ground and pushed underground here. And we'll look at one more area where it's quite noticeably wetter, just because of that groundwater, and we'll look in 1 minute here. Here we have a little bit of a larger pond. It's not a beaver pond, but it would be kind of simulating kind of what a beaver pond would do. It's you know, beaver ponds can cover huge areas and are massively important to the ecosystems that they're in. So even areas like this, a little bit smaller and a little bit, you know, more compact than a beaver pond, not quite as much flow through. Beaver ponds are usually in areas of permanent streams, but this one drains all winter long and, you know, adds to that water table all winter long. So, you know, all these areas are just so important to the ecosystem around it, and they, you know, it's a lot of times they're filled in, they're inconvenient and these types of things, but really when we look at it, you know, people need to start looking at what they add as well. So here's a little bit larger one anyway. Okay, so this is the area I wanted to show everybody here. So we have that same stream coming in from just melting snow, and it fans out into this kind of larger area. But what we see here is quite a few plants and things like that that wouldn't normally thrive, you would think, in the dry Alberta environment. However, here we have a few of those, right? So rotting logs with a lot of moss, that type of thing. And right here, I'll try to get out of the shadow, we have a small western red cedar. That is highly unusual in Alberta, obviously. They do not like the dryness, especially in the winter. But this particular one is in a high snow area. It's quite small and would have been covered in snow early in its life. Hard to know how it got here, however, there it is. So I'm going to actually have a look and kind of monitor this and just see if it can survive beyond kind of you know, the seedling stage where it's not covered in snow through the winter. But anyway, pretty interesting. And we'll just take a look here at another area about fell in to the water. Just the lushness of the mosses on some of these logs here, because this area gathers a lot of moisture in the ground. We have this log is kind of acting as a bit of a nurse log. We have some spruce seedlings on there, and even here we have a mountain hemlock seedling right in this log. So it's kind of interesting. There's a couple of cut logs beside it, but it doesn't look like it's been damaged. Kind of an unusual species to see here, and you can just see the amount of mosses growing in the area. And what else here? Looks like we have a subalpine spruce, or sorry, subalpine fir. Yes, that's what this one is. You can see the flat needles there. So a small subalpine fir, and yeah, more kind of pools and areas for water to gather and sink into the ground. But really, I guess the message that I want to bring to everybody is just, as always, there's more than meets the eye when you see a small stream like this. The benefits through the year of having this water kind of run through, slowed down. Beaver dams are amazing at this and that type of thing. Just the naturalized kind of environment does a very good job of forcing the water into the ground. But when people kind of manipulate it, they want that water gone as fast as possible, whether planting crops or removing the coarse woody debris that slows it down, removing beaver dams, these types of things. It has a huge effect on the type of trees and a type of forest that's able to grow in the area. So kind of more than meets the eye. And if I could, put the message out there that these types of things, it's such a big importance to the entire ecosystem to have them intact and naturalized so that the water is doing its job. So anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, thanks.